So I'd like to welcome to the stage, do we have Martin Butt from Stardust? I believe we do. Wait. There we are. Sorry, I can't do that voice. Thank you. Come on up. Martin's going to talk about unlocking 1 billion users with Custodial wallets. So over to you. There's your clicker.
Thanks very much. Let's get set up here. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. In 2021, NFTs exploded. They were everywhere. You couldn't escape news stories of pictures of monkeys selling for $1 million or some kind of celebrity scam with an NFT. At the time, I was working as a head of technology at EA Mobile. We could see the utility in NFTs. We just didn't know exactly how to get them into our games. So I set up a research project. This project went off to try and answer this question. They came back and said, this industry is too early, the infrastructure is not there yet, and if we want to really drive utility into our games, what we will need to do is set up a blockchain team, set up some blockchain infrastructure, and this is going to be very costly. Not totally happy with this answer, but I said, that's fine, we'll pack this away, we'll come back to it in a few years. Fast forward just 3 months, and I discovered Stardust. Stardust's offering was to add NFTs to your game with just 3 lines of code. I went to their website, I got their API key, I put it into my test app, and 3 lines of code later, I had an NFT on the blockchain. This was amazing. I was so blown away by this experience that I actually joined Stardust. I am Martin Butt. I am the VP of Engineering at Stardust. I'm here today to talk to you about how blockchain technology can scale to more than 1 billion users through the use of custodial wallets. What I hadn't realized when I used Stardust platform was that I'd actually use a custodial wallet. And for me as a developer, the thing that made my experience so easy and so frictionless was that custodial wallet. So before I go on to talk more about custodial wallets, I want to talk about user experience. How do we scale any app to 1 billion users? The answer always has and always will be user experience. I like to think about this in games as 4 cohorts. First cohort is the golden cohort. We love the golden cohort. These are the people that are Googling for your game before you've even conceived building it. They're so ready for it that when you launch, they're straight in there. They're cheap, they're easy. We love them because they're so sticky. They refer their friends. The only problem with this cohort is that it's so small. As we move into the second cohort, this is the tech-savvy individuals. Tech-savvy individuals are also great. They're a little less turned off by friction. If they see an error message, if they have to go through a few more hoops, they'll do that. They know that they're going to get some utility. Again, problem with the tech-savvy group is it's a small cohort. The next cohort is what I call the UA-sensitive. The UA-sensitive individuals are people who can easily be moved from app to app or game to game through a UA campaign. These people have a little bit more disposable income, a little bit more free time, and during the free-to-play era, these are the people that we made the most money from. Huge group of people, but even if you conquered this entire market, if you got all of these people into your game, you would still not reach 1 billion users. The only way that you can reach a unicorn status with your game is by attacking the 4th cohort. This 4th cohort does not have a lot of disposable income. They do not have a lot of free time. When you do not have a lot of resources like that available to you, you are very careful about what you do spend your time and money on, which means as game developers, you have to be offering something even better than their current experience. Remember, your competition here for this cohort is going to be Netflix. It's going to be TikTok. It's going to be Instagram. You're going to have to offer something even better than that. That is quite a challenge. So let's talk a little bit about what Web3 means. There's a huge amount of confusion over what Web3 means. This is not surprising, considering there's a huge amount of confusion over what Web 1 and Web 2 are. So you may have heard this simplification that Web 1 is read, Web 2 is read-write, and Web 3 is read-write-own. I think this model undersells what Web 2 and Web 3 and even Web 1 actually offer. I prefer a different model. I prefer saying Web 1 was read-write, Web 2 was read-write share, and Web 3 is read-write own. And that share distinction on Web 2 is very important here. I'll explain why. So let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to Web 1. Web 1 was a simple A to B communication. I would send a request to a server would send a response. I would go to Amazon, I would say, hey, I want to buy a book, and they would say, great, it's in the mail. That was great. Web 2 expanded on this with a set of new standards. There was RESTful APIs, there was RSS, there was AJAX. These allowed us to do asynchronous communication between client and server, but also server to server. This massively broadened the range of apps that we could build. A really good example of this is Spotify. So Spotify, essentially at the end of the day, it's just an online media player. However, it has a USP. It has an additional feature where you can connect to Facebook, download your friends list, and see what they're listening to. In exchange for that, you share what you're listening to. That's the share component. And this was great. When Web 2 apps started rising, we were like, here are my friends. They're all over here. They're all online. Being online is great. It's fun. All my friends are here. Then we realized it turned a little bit creepy. We realized that these companies were using our data to target us with ads. And a small number of very large companies had accrued a lot of data. We were not happy with this. We wanted to get our data back. So we fought some legal battles. We had some sweeping legal changes, GDPR, CCPA. We got control of our data back. This was great, but now we're moving into a new world. We're moving into a world where we want control of our data, but we also want to get utility from it as well. And this is where Web 3 steps in, with a set of standards around decentralization of data. When I say data, I'm not really talking about PII. For games specifically, I'm talking about digital asset ownership. Your digital assets are purchases that you have made for a digital good. In a lot of cases, you buy things online and you think you own them, but you don't. Let me explain it with an example. When you go to Apple and you pay $20 to watch a movie, and you buy that movie, what you're really buying is a perpetual license to watch that movie on any one of their platforms. If you want to move that movie over to Amazon or Google or some other platform, you can't do that. All you've bought is that perpetual license. You don't really own it. What Web3 says is, let's put something on the blockchain to say that you bought that you own that license, and you can take that anywhere because you own it. So where do Web3 wallets come into this? So Web3 wallets are really your way of proving that you own a digital asset. You have a private key or a seed phrase that allows you to prove your ownership, but also to approve transactions in and out of your wallet. Wallets come in two varieties, custodial and non-custodial. Non-custodial wallets, you own and you operate. So it's on you to store the private key securely. When you Google how to store a private key securely, it will tell you to print it out and put a piece of paper into a fireproof safe. This is a very high-friction thing to do. This instills fear in individuals. We know from user experience that fear is the last thing you want, but people are questioning, why am I putting this piece of paper in the same place I've got my birth certificate and my passport and everything else? And we go back to them and say, because there are dozens of people who bought Bitcoin in 2011 and then lost their private key and now have hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in a wallet they can no longer access. Like, you keep your private keys safe. Custodial wallets offer a better way. Custodial wallets say, let me delegate that responsibility of storing that private key to a third party, and they will keep this secure for me. Let's dive in a bit more about why custodial wallets are better. If you use a non-custodial wallet to on-ramp players to your game, you have to hit them with what we call a wallet wall. A wallet wall is just our fancy way of saying, connect your wallet. Connect your MetaMask, your Coinbase, whatever it is. This is where we see a huge drop-off of individuals getting through your funnel. If you don't already have a wallet, at this point, you're unlikely to set one up. Custodial wallets allow you to never have to show a wallet wall. Even if you're being really clever, even if you are waiting until the user gets through the FATUI and they're super engaged, you hit them with a wallet wall, there's a very high chance they're going to churn if they don't already have a wallet at this point. Custodial wallets allow you to make a simple API call behind the scenes to create a wallet on their behalf. These APIs will look very similar to what your software engineers are used to seeing. Just a simple RESTful API that will allow you to create wallets, mint tokens, burn tokens, transfer them, deposit, withdraw, etc. So we talk about Stardust wallets as being three things: fast, flexible, and secure. They're fast because the onboarding experience for your team, your engineers, is easy. It's a Web 2-looking RESTful API that they're going to be used to. It's fast for onboarding users because you don't have to hit them with a wallet wall. You can hide that all behind the scenes. Now, if you're being clever, and I think this is the right approach right now, you don't even let your players know that they are playing a Web3 game until much later. There's been a lot of bad press about NFTs and NFT games, and a lot of gamers have said, I'm not playing a game that has NFTs in it, which is kind of ridiculous because they're just pandering to the bad news. Instead, what we're seeing clever game developers do is wait until much later in the funnel before letting them know that they're playing a Web3 game. And they can do this with a custodial wallet because you can transfer all the assets behind the scenes without them even knowing. Wait until the moment that the value proposition for being on a Web3 game is at its absolute highest, which is the point that they have assets that they can withdraw and sell. This might be months or even years into the process of playing your game. We're also flexible. Our wallets are flexible, and I'd say any custodial wallet provider offers this. You want to be thinking about making games. You're worried about making games. You're worried about getting through your UA tests and showing some heat in the market and getting your MVP ready. You don't want to be worrying about blockchain as well. A blockchain, a custodial wallet provider will abstract all of that away. They'll give you a simple set of APIs that you can use to interact with a blockchain. I think there are like 4 or 5 more major changes planned for Ethereum over the next few years. You don't want to have to be updating your games and your interactions with the blockchain for every one of those changes. So if you use a custodial wallet provider, you just get one set of APIs, and that never changes. Finally, there's security. Probably the most important part is security. So Stardust, I can't really talk about other custodial wallet providers. I'll just talk about Stardust here. But Stardust has a product called Stardust Vaults. Stardust Vaults are our proprietary solution where we have a zero-knowledge architecture to store private keys. Once a private key goes into the vault, it can never come back out. Even me with full privileges to the system, I can't see the private keys in there. We use the vaults to ingest transactions, to sign them, and send them to blockchain. It's impenetrable. It is what we live and die by. So the other aspect of security is, again, back to you as game developers. I know from building games for years that the last thing you're thinking about is security. When you're building a game and trying to get it out there and trying to see if there's any value to it, any kind of security issues will be deprioritized. It's just the way that it is. Eventually, one of these games hits, and the UA money comes in, and you get your 100,000 plus DAU, and your developers start screaming, saying, there's all those security issues we didn't deal with before. We need to go and deal with them now. That is a luxury Stardust does not have. Every single decision we make, every ticket we file, every time we have a meeting, we have to ask the question, is this going to lower our security? If the answer is yes, we cannot do it. It's absolutely paramount for us. So, in summary, custodial wallets, they're fast, they're flexible, they're secure. They allow you to onboard users in a way that eliminates the wallet wall, which is most certainly the clunkiest and hardest part of the user experience right now. You still need to go and build great games, but that's all on you. Thank you. How are we doing? Got a few minutes yet? So if there's any questions, we've got a few minutes. we can always talk after. Oh, go ahead. Oh.
Hey, great talk.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Just curious, just curious about what's the process of getting the assets like the NFTs or whatever that are in the wallet into their non-custodial wallet when they decide to do that?
Yeah, essentially there is an API call for a withdraw function. So what we see a lot of our developers building on the platform doing is allowing users to whitelist wallets to withdraw to, and then you just make one single API call, and we post that transaction to blockchain, and it goes to their wallet. Yeah. Simple, yeah. Currently, we support Polygon, Avalanche, and Solana. Yeah. Any more questions? No.
I'll gladly take the mic just to add in. I'm head of BD for Stardust. We also support any EVM, and Arbitrum full support is coming in a few weeks.
Hey, so I'm curious about your guys' plans on expanding to different types of games, or just throughout the game market specifically. Because I mean, there's thousands of games, and I mean, like, what's going to dictate where you expand to? Because I mean, it sounds great to like implement to anything, but like, what's your plan on expansion?
Stardust platform can be used for any kind of game, and technically not even limited to games. We just focus on games. That's where we have the most experience. But yeah, we have people building desktop first-person shooters. We have people building mobile games. Yeah, just the full gamut. So there's nothing really restricting you on what kind of game you're going for with it. Yeah.
I guess I'm curious, like, why I would want to have that in my game specifically. Because I mean, there's so many different types of games. I mean, why would I want this type of currency transaction in a first-person shooter if I'm going for a game where I just want to shoot people?
Yeah, so how you design a Web3 game economy is a whole another conversation we can have, a whole other talk. But you know, what we're seeing is that blockchains are getting more scalable. They can handle higher throughput. You know, we're going through another wave right now of Web3 game development with the better tools that are out there. What we saw previously was people built blockchain games. The blockchains couldn't handle it. It kind of crumbled under them. We're seeing a new wave now, and we've got the ZK rollups on the horizon as well that can handle like huge amounts of volume. So do we want to get to a world where you're playing a first-person shooter and every single bullet is an NFT? I'm not sure we do. I'm not sure there's a lot of value in that to players, because that's what it all really comes back to, is how can you derive value to players? Like, are you really going to withdraw one bullet out and try and sell it on an exchange? You know, yeah.
So coming out next, we have a star-studded panel, which is going to be talking about the metaverse and distinguishing the buzz from the real deal. So I'd like to invite Jason, Fazri, David, Linda, and Andy to the stage, and they can take it away. Thank you.